Broadcasting live from Paliano, the high city on the plain of Fiora, this is Tap Tap Concede. Welcome everyone to the Conspiracy episode, the first of a couple, I'm sure.
You didn't tell me this was going to be. It's a conspiracy episode. It's like it's a conspiracy.
It's a conspiracy.
Actually, you know what the conspiracy was behind the recording of this is we were supposed to record it last week, but there was a legitimate conspiracy that canceled the recording of this.
Yes, Kathleen surprised me with a birthday party,
so
which was pretty sweet.
But it was literally everybody else except Graham was in on it.
So I was like, all right, so this afternoon we're going to record Tap Tap Concede, and everybody was like, yes, Graham, we certainly will.
And then as soon as you leave, James is like, we do not have time to do that. We got to do something here. And I'm like, we'll film outside. I'll slow roll it. So I was like blowing takes on purpose and all sorts of things.
Evil. So
yeah, I'm a jerk.
Today we're going to do a sort of a first part of a kind of a conspiracy set review, I guess. We're gonna go over. So there's a lot of reprints in conspiracy. We're not really going to go over them, but this week we're going to talk about the conspiracies themselves and the what Wizards calls the draft matters cards, which are the all the sort of the cogwork artifact constructs that affect how drafting happens, because every pack of conspiracy has, in place of a basic land, has either a conspiracy or a draft matters card. So we're going to go through those one by one. But first, we're going to crack a pack. We've actually added a pack of conspiracy to our pile of packs, and we now have a full 20 because we had some new ones come in. It's pretty fantastic. So Kathleen, you want to give it a roll?
It's a good looking pile.
It's a great looking pile.
Thank you so much to everybody who's been donating us packs.
Look at all these colors.
Crack a pack. We've got. We just had somebody from Sweden
send us Zendikar and Scars and Shards and Future Sight and Unhinged.
I think they all came from. Yeah, they all came from that one person.
they all came from him. I can't remember what his username is, but
Captain Falafel.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was like.
And a bunch of Swedish candy for added value.
Oh, we've been eating so much Swedish candy.
All right,
so
go
thank
for
you,
it.
Captain Falafel, for that.
Let's roll this thing. 7.
Lucky number 7.
2, 4, 6, 7. Whoops, we are going back in time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, to Mercadian Masks.
Oh, I was hoping for a Laura.
Ooh. Fancy.
Yeah.
All right.
You looking up what's worth anything?
Yeah,
in Mercadian
absolutely.
Masks? This is an expert set.
If it's expert, you know there's got to be value in it.
So Masks. Was Masks the powerful one that made them scared, or was Masks Masks was the underpowered one that followed Urza's? Yeah, where they were like, "Oh, we did too many good stuff. We have to like take it down a little bit."
All right, we got some hits though.
All right.
So you never know.
Is one of those hits Hunted Wumpus?
Probably not.
Probably not. Is that common?
The art on the Hunted Wumpus.
Is that common or uncommon?
Uncommon.
Okay, so careful because it's going to go uncommon, or rare.
Yeah, so I'm going to skip around.
Yeah.
So Hunted Wumpus is a 6/6 for 4. So
okay.
That's pretty
that's
astonishing.
What's the drawback?
When it comes into play, each other player may put a creature card from his or her hand into the battlefield.
Oh, that is not worth casting.
That is...
I'd still play it.
If they
it's
have
probably, I mean, that thing is probably bigger than anything they're going to play.
If they have nothing going on. By the way, the Wumpus looks like the body of like an elephant or a rhino with a different monster's head like stuck on with glue and
Or
and
maybe
masking
he's
tape.
hunted and he's run through like a taxidermy exhibit and it has just gotten stuck on his head, and that's why he's like, "Rah!"
That is what that looks like. You're right. Jeweled Torque. What? A torque. Oh, I see. Because it's like a. She's wearing like a Mobius strip. As Jeweled Torque comes. Sorry, this is an artifact for 2 colorless. As it comes into play, choose a color. Whenever a player plays a spell of that color, you may pay 2 colorless, and if you do, gain 2 life.
Okay.
Seems good.
Really?
Nah, not really.
I mean, it's fine.
There was a cycle of these that you didn't even have to pay anything, and you gained 1 life, and everyone hated them.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Lucky Charms. And this
Oh,
is I mean, you'll always be sure to get whatever color your opponent is playing, but you have to pay 2 colorless every time.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not what your opponent's playing. Maybe you want to do the colors that you're playing. Who knows?
Yeah, no.
That's probably a bad idea, because then how are you going to pay for that 2 colorless?
Hired Giant, who has about 1 billion abs that go all over his body and up his arms.
Oh, yeah, that guy has more muscles than he should.
He is a 4/4 for 3 and a red, so he's a 4/4
Sure.
for 4. When he comes into play, each other player may search his or her library for a land and put that card into play and then shuffle their library.
Wow, what a drawback to get a 4/4 for 4.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
All right, let's go to the
I don't want to
commons.
spoil. I don't want to spoil whatever the rare is. So it's under the Hired Giant right now.
All right.
And 1 and a white instant for Orim's Cure, with a pretty scary looking dude on it. Orim's Cure. If you control a plains, you may tap an untapped creature you control instead of paying the mana cost for Orim's Cure. Prevent the next 4 damage that would be dealt to target creature or player this turn. The fact that you can cast it for free?
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
It's in white. You probably have a white creature, so or you're likely to have a plains.
Yeah.
So
No, I still don't like it that much, though.
it doesn't seem that bad. Hey,
Ooh, this
now
guy.
this guy.
Yeah.
This is a namesake card. This is a Waterfront Bouncer. This is where we get the term bounce.
Oh.
When you bounce a creature, it's the Waterfront Bouncer. He's a 1/1 for 1 and a blue, and for a blue and tap and discard a card, return target creature to its owner's hand. That's why we call it bouncing. And he's a spell shaper, creature type spell shaper, and the spell shapers did things when you discarded cards.
Yeah.
So you're paying 1 and pitching a card to turn that card into an unsummon, basically.
You know,
So this guy is turning the card you discard into an unsummon.
Yeah.
you know what? There's few cards that I would rather have than an unsummon, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's not so bad.
Yep.
Insubordination, with some pretty sweet art on it. It is a creature enchantment for black. At the end of the turn of enchanted creature's controller, insubordination deals 2 damage to that player unless the creature attacked this turn.
I can see a corner case in which that is relevant and useful.
So presumably you have a plan if that creature attacks.
Yeah.
That you can kill it. So you're either paying 2 to sort of kill the creature unless they have a combat trick, or they take 2.
Yeah.
I mean, insubordination seems like it'd be good if they had some sort of like fragile bomb that they don't want attack going into combat.
Yeah. I prefer stab wound.
Yeah, me too.
Gerard's Irregulars.
They're irregular. Eat more bran, Gerard.
No, Gerard eats as much bran as he
Oh, it's
wants.
his-
As these guys.
Yeah, that's true.
They are
Cabbage might help.
a 4/2 for 4 and a red with
Okay.
trample and haste.
Yeah.
Sure.
Seems
Yeah,
fine.
it's fine.
4/2 trample haste for 5. That's all right.
I'm neither excited nor unexcited about that card. It is
Had-
merely there.
Had Gerard this is the flavor text. Had Gerard realized he'd end up fighting against them, he might not have trained them so well.
Ah.
He might have given them less bran.
Tranquility.
Okay.
2 and a green sorcery. Destroy all enchantments.
I can also see corner case places for that.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know how
fine.
good
I mean,
it was.
That's.
This would be great in like Commander.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, this is an amazing...
I don't know how it was in this limited format, but there we are. Ramosian Sergeant. It is a 1/1 for a single white, and she is a rebel. And she, for 3 and tap, search your library for a rebel card with converted mana cost 2 or less and put that card into play, then shuffle your library. So
She also looks like
rebels beget rebels.
Yep.
a...
Always pretty good.
Particularly badass Princess Leia.
I was going to say perhaps somebody who's like really good at ballet and not so good at fighting.
What, just because she's got like,
A leotard on.
and like rippling thighs?
Well, that might
This
just
is
be
sweet.
the fabric.
It's true.
All right. What
But
else?
typically the rebel deck needed rebel searchers. It sort of got kind of out of hand. Saprazan Raider is a 1/2 for 2 and a blue. When it becomes blocked, return it to its owner's hand.
Boo.
That seems terrible.
Boo.
Ooh.
Make it go away.
For a 1/2?
Yes.
Okay, like if it was like a 3/3 for 3, like I would buy that because that's quite powerful at this time. 3/3 for
We're-
3.
Were merfolks so good that you needed to put a drawback on a 3 mana 1/2?
Yeah.
Ugh.
There's
well,
a
the
in
community
Theros
rating
block.
for this is 1 star.
In
so.
Theros block, there's a 1 mana 1/2, and it's still a merfolk.
And you're still like, meh, I don't really want
You still
these.
don't run it. No.
Yeah, this is awful.
Terrible.
No, that's an F.
Soul Channeling. 2 and a black for a creature enchantment. Pay 2 life, regenerate enchanted creature. That actually seems okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. I think there's
you have
cheaper,
a-
better regeneration effects.
Well, maybe not in masks.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not in masks.
Okay,
this
but
might
we
actually
can't
be
we
fine.
can't say, well, Tranquility seems good in Commander, and then be like, I don't know about this. There's a bit cheaper regeneration effects, and you're like, well, not in this block, right?
Well, no, I did say I don't think Tranquility's. I don't know how good Tranquility is in this block. I think this probably would have been fine at the time.
How good is a creature that you have to invest a card, 2 life, and 3 mana in regenerating it? Like, how good does that creature have to be, though? Like, realistically, like that is a huge
It
amount.
has to be better than your opponents.
Yes.
Okay, like, do you know?
I would put this on the Gerard's Irregulars.
You know the I would not. Marshall's like sort of threshold. I don't know what he calls it.
Setup cost.
The setup cost. I call that the horseshit index. How much horseshit do I have to go through to make this card worth my time?
Doesn't seem that bad.
That's a lot of horseshit.
All right.
I got
Moving on.
Shock Troops. 2/2 for 3 and a red. Sacrifice Shock Troops. They deal 2 damage to target creature or player.
See, that's where you put the soul channeling,
Why?
because then you can regenerate them.
You
and then
can't.
do
You
it
can't
again.
regenerate from sacrifice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It seems fine. I mean, 2/2 for 4 is kind of meh. I mean,
I just want to
again,
deal 4 damage.
could have been good back in the day.
Honestly, that's fine because then you block a 4 power guy, which is probably the top end of the scale, and then you sack.
Yeah. You can't do that.
You
No,
can't
you
because
can't.
it
It's
dies
still only
before.
damage.
You could at the time
Actually, yeah.
you could have.
Oh.
So this is interesting because it brings up a
Yeah.
good point. Damage used to go on the stack. Well, actually, damage didn't go on the stack, and then it did go on the stack, and then it wasn't on the stack anymore. But I believe around this time,
It might have been on the stack.
it might have been. This might actually be before the stack because that came around in 6th edition.
I don't even remember.
Okay, so at the time you could do filthy things and trade this up.
Yeah,
for a
you could
4/4.
block, deal the damage, and then
sacrifice it.
sacrifice it, and also deal that.
But
damage.
that's not something you can do anymore. So
Yeah. So anyway, Tiger Claws, creature enchantment for 2 and a green. You may play Tiger Claws anytime you can play an instant.
so flash.
Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and trample.
That seems good.
Giving your creature trample is pretty good, especially
Yeah.
at instant speed.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
That +1/+1.
we're seeing a lot of enchantments, so maybe Tranquility is not that bad.
No.
Lightning Hounds. They're a 3/2 for 2 red, and they have first strike.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'll play that
That
card.
seems
Great.
All right,
That's
what's
good.
our rare?
That's good by by today's standards. A 3/2 first
Yeah.
strike for
Wait,
4.
look at its power first. Is it?
What?
Is it? We want a land. What we want is it to be a land.
Ooh, I think it might be. Oh,
Holy.
oh.
Ah, you tease.
Dust Bowl.
What were you
Boo.
hoping for?
Rashidian import.
Ah, right.
Rishi
Dust Bowl
P.
is still worth a couple bucks, but it's not
It's
Rashidian
no,
points.
it's no Rishi P.
Yeah.
Dust Bowl is it's a land, taps to add 1 colorless to your mana pool, and for 3 and tap and sack a land, destroy target non-basic land.
All right, still
So
seems not bad.
It's a weird sort
like
of
it's
like
terrible in draft.
reusable wasteland kind
Yeah.
of that you don't have to sacrifice it. You can sack other lands and do it again on subsequent turns.
You got to pay a lot more.
But
Yeah.
It's not as good.
All right.
all right, let's start
Let's start this thing.
talking about conspiracies.
I have to say though, Jeweled Torque, even though it's bad, the art is fantastic in this
Oh,
card.
it's beautiful, yeah.
It's possibly some of the nicest old Magic card art I've seen.
All right, so what we're going to do here, if you want to follow along, is we're going to go through, first of all the conspiracies alphabetically, and then all the Draft Matters cards alphabetically. And we're just going to tell you what they are and talk about them a little bit.
So basically, if you want to follow along, you can just go to Gather, which you'll see has had a beautiful update and looks a little newer and runs a little faster. Just pull up the whole spoiler and we'll go through alphabetically. But for those of you who are not watching the video, we will also read out the card and the mana cost when.
So the conspiracies, first of all, we should quickly tell you what the conspiracies are, as I'm sure you've heard, but we'll say it again. The conspiracies, they are a card that sits outside the game.
They sit in the command zone.
Yes, for judging purposes, they sit in the command zone, which is the same place that obviously your commanders sit. That's also where any planeswalker emblems hang out, for your own curiosity. They do not count as a card in your deck, meaning that, as Kathleen was talking about the setup cost, they are free, basically. Like,
There's no horse shit to deal with.
even if it is a very minor effect on the game, it is not costing you a card in your deck or mana to activate it. So they can be pretty cool. And if you saw the video that we did, I think it's just called A Video Conspiracy over for Wizards. Marshall talks about them a lot, and Marshall and Brian talk about that a lot in their conspiracy primer, just the value of a card that is basically free. So the first one is one that was in that video.
The only downside to this is conspiracy is meant to be drafted. So conspiracies they don't take up slot in your deck. They don't cost anything to cast, but they do cost you a draft pick. So that is the cost.
Yeah, which is
not insignificant,
but pretty minor overall.
It's minor overall, but they don't tend to have it like most conspiracies don't have a huge effect on the game. So you have to balance where you're going to take that conspiracy versus where you're going to take it, a good creature or enchantment or piece of removal that will actually affect the game. So they're not entirely free. I just wanted to point that out.
All right. So the first conspiracy, which is one that was from the video, is Advantageous Proclamation, which is that it's one that you start face up. Your minimum deck size is reduced by 5. So, because in Limited, you have a minimum 40-card deck. You can have more, you shouldn't, but you can have more, but you cannot have less than 40 cards. If you have one of these, you can have a deck of 35 cards. Why would you want to do that, James?
You would want to do that to make your deck more consistent.
Yes.
Now, why wouldn't you want to do that?
I don't know. Like, I feel like if I can make a 35-card deck, I probably make a 35-card deck.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know when you don't do this.
It's
you can
sort of a higher level kind of planning thing. The smaller your deck is, the reason you don't want to run more than 40 cards is because the smaller your deck is, the more consistent it is, meaning the more likely you are to draw the cards that you know are good and that you need to win.
Yeah.
And if you have a 35-card deck, you're even more likely to draw the good cards and not have to have so many cards that are maybe only mediocre. You can have a higher concentration of good cards.
Yeah. Like, so
the downside, as we saw, is that you are playing a 4-player free-for-all multiplayer game.
Right.
And those can go a little longer.
Can go a little longer, and you could mill yourself out.
But, as we also saw, there's some things in this set that allow you to sort of recycle, and we'll get into that sort of more detail when we do the full review, but there are some things in this deck that allow you, or this set that will allow you to say, take cards out of your graveyard and put them into your library, or put them on the bottom of your library. So if you're taking this, maybe look for, stuff that would allow you to do some recursion, so you can just play those good cards even more often.
Yeah. Because if you, again, we're referring to the conspiracy video, which if you haven't watched, you really should check out. In the deck that Marshall had this, he had Dak Faden, which you loot twice. He had the Screaming Seahawk, which was pulling additional cards out of his deck. He was drawing a lot of cards.
Yeah, I feel like if you're playing a deck that wants you to draw cards, you probably don't want to play
this guy.
If you're playing a slower, grindier deck, and maybe the first 2 packs haven't gone so well, and you pick this up in your 3rd pack, and you're like, hey, now I don't need to run these, 2 or 3, because your land count will also go down. Remember, if you're running a 35-card deck, you don't need to run 17 lands. You don't need to play those 2 or 3 extra cards that maybe aren't going to do much. Like, maybe you would rather run. Like, I think you probably go down to 15.
15, and then you've got 35, then that's 15, and then 20 spells. That seems right.
Yeah,
I think
normally
so.
It's 23-17. This would be 20-15.
Yeah. So
yeah.
You're 3 less spells, 2 less land.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Probably. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what that.
There's no.
Again,
hard and fast rule
maybe
for that.
It depends on your deck as well.
Yeah, it depends if you. Yeah, here's the thing: if you're trying to cast a lot of big fatties, and you pick this up, do you run this? I don't know if you do because just like if you're trying to cast 7 and 8 drops.
No, I think if you there is a deck for this card. It's definitely not every deck.
Yeah. All right. Next conspiracy.
I think this is a control deck card.
Yeah. Next conspiracy is Backup Plan.
Now, I actually picked this as a rare. It never came up in the video because they wanted to reveal it separately.
And it didn't really didn't like affect the outcome of the game at all. So
what does it do?
So what Backup Plan is? This is a rare conspiracy, which is kind of interesting. Draw an additional hand of 7 cards as the game begins. Before taking mulligans, shuffle all but 1 of your hands into your library. So what that means is you draw 7, and then you draw another 7.
Do you get to shuffle after you draw your first 7?
No.
Okay.
You draw 7,
So you
and
draw
then you
7.
draw another 7.
So you have 2 hands of 7.
So you have 2 hands.
And you compare.
And you pick.
Yeah, you pick one of them, and then you either keep that hand or you mulligan that hand. And because it's in the multiplayer game, your first mulligan is free. So you get to look at 2 hands of 7.
Yep.
And if
Decide if you want one.
and if they're if one of them is good, you
just keep it.
You keep it. If they're both garbage, you throw them both back and draw a new hand of 7. And then if you then further want a mulligan, then you go down to 6.
I think you always take this card.
Yeah, this card was,
this card seems completely bonkers.
This card was awesome.
And that's a card that you start face up. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
And you do it every game.
Every game.
This card is bonkers.
I mean, theoretically, you're only
playing
one
one game, but
I
mean, maybe if you
if you have this if you put this into your cube, if your play
put
group,
this into your cube,
if your play group has decided that you're going to play conspiracies in your cubes,
disgusting advantage. Now, in my case, I drew one hand of 7, and it was just garbage. I drew another hand of 7, and it was also garbage. So I got to throw it back and got to throw both of them back, and just
if you throw both of them back, you're now shuffling and drawing 7 new, right?
You are then shuffling, yes.
Yeah, I think you're always playing this
so,
card. This card seems really good.
I mean, that, like, basically, I fluked out and basically got worst case scenario on there. But, like, here's what you can do is it's just really good.
I mean, it's one card that can, and when you're only playing that one game, it sets you up really well to start off, right?
Oh, yeah.
You have the advantage to start the game when you have the ability to look at 3 7-card hands if you want.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So next conspiracy is Brago's Favor. Now, Brago's Favor is a hidden agenda. What that means is that you start the game with this face down, and you want to write down on a little piece of paper a specific card that it's referring to. You have to do that before you start the game. Yeah. There were some people questioning whether you do that like after you keep your opening hand. No, you should not be basing these hidden agenda cards on what's in your opening hand. You should be basing them on what's in your deck.
Yeah.
And you should be thinking about them as you draft. I'll explain why in a second. But then whenever you want during the game, you then reveal it and the card that is associated with it, and something will happen. In the case of Brago's Favor, spells with the chosen name you cast cost 1 colorless less. I didn't actually realize when we were filming, this is not creatures, this is spells. This could be any spell.
Yeah, so
one colorless. So
if you have like a big bomb that's like a 7-drop, you can turn it to a 6-drop. Or I think a better use of this is how Marshall used it in the video. Is his Screaming Seahawks cost 1 less?
Yeah,
he had 4 of them.
If you can get multiples, they talked about this on Limited Resources. If you have it might act as sort of like a tiebreaker. Like if you have like a card that's pretty okay and maybe a card that's a little worse than it, but you have another copy of the card that's maybe a little worse and one of these hidden agendas, you want to take that because then you have multiples of a card, and these hidden agendas get better the more of a single card you have.
Well, and plus I actually found it quite easy to pick up like multiple cards because like in the game that we had, I had like 4 of those Courier Hawks. Marshall had 4 Screaming Seagulls. Seahawks. And BDM had 4 of the green dudes.
Howling Wolf.
So there are because there are a lot of decent creatures that sort of synergize, or at least not with each other. Maybe not even with each other. Like some of them do, like the Seahawks and the Howling Wolf. But at least a lot of decent creatures with sort of good enter the battlefield effects or like other things that you can do and make them a little cheaper. And how can you go wrong?
And if you're able to get
really good.
So this is interesting. If you're able to get multiples of these, like say you have 2 Brago's Favor. You can either name different spells, and each of those spells costs 1 cheaper, or you can name the same spell, and that spell costs 2 colorless cheaper, which would be pretty crazy if you were able to get the right thing.
So it seems like the kind of card you probably want to build around. If you're going to pick this one up in the 3rd pack, it's probably not as good, say, as picking it up in the 1st pack. So
unless you know that you already have multiple copies of something.
Yeah, well, I mean, so if you go into the 3rd pack with 3 copies of XYZ creature,
and this is your uncommon,
uncommon, then yeah, you probably want to take it. If you're opening your 3rd pack and you don't necessarily have any, multiples of creatures, and you see this card and you see something that's probably better for your deck, probably you're not taking it. I think. Yeah.
So our next conspiracy is Double Stroke, which is another hidden agenda. So whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell of the chosen name, so this has to be an instant or sorcery, you may copy it, and you may choose new targets for the copy. So you can.
So that's any instance or sorcery.
Any instance or sorcery. So if you can get some sort of like removal spell,
Yeah.
or
Like Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah, I mean,
any sort of burn or
Here's my sort of multiplayer advice on how you do this. Like, obviously, you pick this up if you have a card worth using it on, right? Like, that's the important thing. Like, this has very low cost, but you are sort of giving your opportunity cost of taking it. If it's an uncommon, it's probably going to go earlier than others. But if you crack this in pack 2 and you've picked something just sick, like let's say you have a Swords to Plowshares, and so then you get it and you eventually Swords to Plowshare something, not only do you get to do 2 Swords to Plowshares, the important thing is not that you get to double it. I mean, that might be relevant to you, but the important thing is that you can then give the illusion that you are politicking a little bit with your second copy, and maybe someone will help you out for a little help on their end. You know, you can use it as a bargaining chip. Like, it's a very powerful effect to have in a multiplayer game.
You could use it like Jared uses his Dao-Chan commander.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
You'd be like, all right, I'm going to use my removal spell on your guy, but who do you want to kill?
Yes, exactly.
Well,
right?
the trick there though is with that
sting out a
card,
bit.
you have to do that though, right? With Dao-Chan, you destroy one person, and then somebody else has to choose.
It has to be somebody else.
You can't make somebody choose the second sword
that's true.
target, but you can use it to your advantage, like Kathleen was saying.
Yeah. I really think that a lot of these things you really have to think about how the politicking in a multiplayer game will go when you use them. Because if you just pick 2 targets to use a removal on or something like that, which is probably the obvious target for a card like this, you're going to make some enemies, probably fairly quickly, and people will be salty because you got...
That's going to happen no matter what you do.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yes, but you don't want the salt index too high too fast.
Yeah. Immediate action is the next conspiracy. It is another hidden agenda. Creatures you control, so this is creatures only, with the chosen name, have haste.
I don't like this card as much.
No, this one doesn't seem quite as good as the other ones.
One of the least impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like whenever you get to one of the... like a specific creature, something that's only naming one creature and not just all creatures. Like if that said all creatures,
no, that'd be busted.
That card would be busted. But I feel like those cards require you to be in a pretty good position with multiples of a creature.
Mm-hmm.
Like
so, I mean, like you said, for Brago's favor, it's more of a build around.
Yeah,
maybe you luck into a situation where it works out, but
sure,
more than often you're going to pick it up early and then try to multiples.
Try to pick up 3 or 4 of one type of creature to really stack it up.
Like getting 3 or 4 creatures with haste is okay, but you have to think, what am I not taking if I take?
Well,
this?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, if you can pick up a couple of these, like creatures have
especially if they have evasion.
Yeah, like if
evasion or.
Like, if you have this one and, like, I mean, I can't remember what Marshall exactly had, but didn't he have something like having this one and Brago giving them, costing them 1 less, and a couple flyers?
And
that's pretty insane.
So he gave his flyers haste. The problem is that you're also drawing the salt when you do that. But you know what this card is very good friends with? Dethrone. Because the thing is, Dethrone, if your creatures attack, they get a +1/+1 counter as long as they're attacking the person with the highest life total. But Dethrone I find to be a tricky mechanic because they have to get through, otherwise they just sit there. You're paying too much generally for a creature that, you know, isn't amazing.
So if you
it's designed to grow.
So if you see an opening,
you could you have hasty Dethrone creatures are much more likely to be able to get in while the getting is good and get those counters before they
and then they'll be
get
bigger
down.
They'll be bigger on the next turn.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
So I think that's where you want to go.
Iterative analysis is a conspiracy. It is another hidden agenda. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell with the chosen name, you may draw a card. That seems fine.
Yeah, it seems fine.
I would probably just, if I had that, I would probably just like. I probably wouldn't like get this one super early, but I'd happily just take it and run it, even if I only had like a 1 of.
Oh yeah,
just
absolutely.
Be like, randomly, I get to draw an extra card this turn. Why not?
If there's nothing else in the pack, and you get to turn a card that you're pretty okay on casting into a cantrip as well, it seems fine. It seems very good.
Muzio's Preparations. This one is very strong. It's another hidden agenda. Each creature you control with the chosen name enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it.
That is extremely good. It's extremely good in a dethrone deck.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely good with anything with literally there's no situation in which making your creatures bigger is better. I would take this highly. If worst case scenario, like if I saw this in pack 1 and there was nothing amazing in there, I would probably take it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? because you could build around it. And if you open it in pack 3, you're probably going to have, even if you only have 2 creatures with the same name, which I think is likely.
I just like that it makes good creatures great and mediocre creatures quite good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, it's good.
It's fantastic. Good conspiracy. Take highly.
Yeah, so it's the sort of thing like BDM and Marshall both had the creatures that get to search other creatures, and as a result, they are undercosted for their ability, and then this made them
Even better.
even better.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So just one point, you can reveal the conspiracies whenever you want. This is not a combat trick. It's not like you attack with some guys and you're like, but my conspiracy says they have +1/+1 counters. You have to read it carefully. Creatures you control with this name enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter. So the latest that you can do it, because revealing conspiracies doesn't go on the stack. They don't actually, like, I believe it's a special action, kind of like morph.
Yeah, it just happens.
So the latest you can do it is when you have put your creature on the stack and everyone has passed priority that they're not going to counter the creature, and then it is about to enter the battlefield, and you can say, cool, flip. It comes in with an additional +1/+1 counter. And after that, you've missed your chance for that specific creature to get their counters. You can't just surprise
and people
someone in
can't
combat
respond to, obviously.
So recommend you flip that as soon as you cast the first creature that you have named.
Once you know it's going to resolve. Power play is a really interesting conspiracy, especially if it's one of the ones that people are considering putting into their cubes. You are the starting player. If multiple players would be the starting player, i.e. if more than one person has this exact conspiracy, one of those players is chosen at random. So you just get to be like, no, I'm going first. And it's a multiplayer game, so everyone draws on their first turn. So you just get to be that slight bit of tempo ahead of everybody else.
If you are on the beatdown...
That's uncommon?
It's uncommon.
Are there common conspiracies?
There are.
Okay.
If you were on the beatdown plan or the dethrone plan, I think this is a great conspiracy. But you have to be careful that this is a 4-player game, and there is some advantage to be gained in going first, but not a ton. However, if you put this in cube, oh my god,
'cause you get to
that
go
is
first
disgusting.
every game.
Every game.
Bonkers.
And,
I mean, do you value these these ones that
basically have one effect
that have one effect to start? So this one and you look at
backup plan,
the 7 cards twice. I think those go up in value a lot if you're drafting them in cube. If maybe after you are done the 4-player game, you switch. Like you like mix it up. You mix it up. You throw 2 people over to one table, and then the other table gets 2 different people as well.
Yep.
I mean, if knowing that ahead of time, I feel like those get higher. In cube especially.
Yeah.
In cube it's broken. You just go first every turn. That's insane.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd put that card in my cube actually.
Yeah, I think power play is super neat. I'm probably not going super high on it because, as Kathleen said, going first in a 4-player game is not like the most amazing thing.
No.
But if you have, you know what though?
It's advantage.
If you've built a dethrone deck and this comes around, and then you also have the thing that gives your creatures haste, so you can like play something. And then you're first, and then your creatures are hasty. You can start, hopefully, maybe. It could give you a little bit of an advantage to make sure your creatures get through to get their +1/+1 counters.
So this next conspiracy, Secret Summoning, combos very interestingly with some of the other with some of the other conspiracies. Say a hidden agenda again. Whenever a creature with the chosen name enters the battlefield under your control, you may search your library for any number of cards with that name, reveal them, put them into your hand, and then shuffle your library.
So it turns like anything into Squadron Hawk or a Howling Wolf.
We were talking about how in the video Marshall had the Screaming Seahawks, BDM had the Howling Wolves, which do this naturally. And if you have multiples of those and stuff like Muzio's Preparations or the Immediate Action or Brago's Favor, that's really, really filthy because you get to cast one, then you get to go looking for other ones that you also get to give all these abilities to. Yeah. This means you can do that for any creature. So if you have multiples of just a different good creature that's not undercosted because it has that ability, like the Seahawk and the Howling Wolf are, you can then do that for any of them. I would probably take this one very early.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems pretty good.
Because, this is definitely a card you could easily build around. And, even if it's a really, even if you just have 2 of, if it's a good card, and it's not a legendary card, which I don't think there are that many legends in this, but just keep that in mind, right? That you can't go too bonkers.
2 Bragos. Oh.
No, Bragos.
Damn.
Well,
Juan Brago.
But yeah.
Secrets of Paradise is another hidden agenda one. Creatures you control with the chosen name have tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool.
This is a huge windmill slam for me if you can get it early.
So just real quick, just a flavor note I really enjoy. So this is what it's called Secrets of Paradise because the card Birds of Paradise does that. It's a Birds of Paradise is it an 0/1 flyer?
It's an 0/1 flyer.
For a single green that taps for any color of mana. The art on this card is Selvala the Explorer, obviously exploring somewhere, writing with a Bird of Paradise quill pen.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
I just think that was really neat.
So why is this card amazing?
Because you can turn any number of creatures the creatures that you name, if you have multiples of them, into ramp as well.
Yeah.
Now,
why do you want to take this early?
Same reason for all the other hidden agendas, to build around it. And
off-color bombs.
Yes, off-color bombs. Correct.
Say you've built a really sick, I don't know, blue-green deck, and then third pack, it's a Swords to Plowshares.
Yep.
Fine, I'm taking that. I'll be able to cast it. I got a Secrets of Paradise. I got like 3 creatures that can do that.
Really helps. There's not there's not a lot of mana fixing in this set.
There's not.
And Secrets of Paradise is very, very good at that.
I mean, and like, even if you don't open like the off-color bomb that you want to splash for, ramp is really good. Like, more mana more quickly.
One quick point, because I saw someone talk about this on Twitter. They were saying that they got there's another actually the next conspiracy, Sentinel Dispatch. We'll talk about that real quick, and then I'll say what I'm going to talk about. So Sentinel Dispatch is I actually quite dig this one. This is a common conspiracy. At the beginning of the first upkeep, so basically at the beginning of the game, put a 1/1 colorless construct artifact creature with Defender onto the battlefield. So you just get like a little guy to block early if someone does get the crazy dethrone start with haste creatures, or they just to have a guy. There's several cards that check against number of defenders.
Yeah, there's Vet Sentinel in this format.
Yeah, and there's some newer cards that do some cool stuff too. And so it's just neat to have a little 1/1 guy for free at the beginning of the game.
I think not every deck wants this.
Oh no.
But I think if you're planning on running a more control-y or a slower grindy deck, this is fantastic.
Well, not every deck wants that, but even aggressive decks would happily just have a random 1/1 defender. There's no downside to it. I wouldn't pick it as highly if I was doing a more aggressive deck, but I can't think of a deck I wouldn't just randomly want a 1/1 chump blocker.
No, but I mean, like, if I was drafting an aggressive deck and it was between this and a creature that attacked well, I would take the creature that would attack well. So it's not
important point about Sentinel Dispatch, and because I saw someone being like, I had tons of mana on turn whatever because I had Sentinel Dispatch and I'd named them on my Secrets of Paradise, or any of the hidden agenda cards say on them, start the game with this conspiracy face down in the command zone and secretly name a card. You may turn this conspiracy face up at any time you reveal the chosen name. What you get from Sentinel Dispatch is a token.
So you cannot
not
name
a card.
Secrets
You
of Paradise.
cannot name tokens with any of the hidden agenda cards. So that is not a thing that you can actually do. That would be filthy, but sadly that is not.
That's a little too filthy.
It is not to be. And I'm just checking. Is that all the conspiracies? Or was there one more?
Can you get foil conspiracies?
You can. Oh, no, there was one more very cool conspiracy that I was kind of bummed didn't show up in the video. World Knit. This is really interesting. It's right at the bottom. There's one before that? What did I miss? Oh, Unexpected Potential, of course. I'm so sorry. I can alphabet.
You smart.
Unexpected Potential is another hidden agenda. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast spells with the chosen name. So you were talking about off-color bombs.
Unexpected Potential, but is this a rare or an uncommon?
It's an uncommon. So you can just, like, if you have one of these that you picked up at some point, and then pack 2 or pack 3, and you're firmly in 2 colors, and there's a completely just like you would never be able to cast this spell because of the colors that are in your deck. You can just be like, oh, I'll just take this crazy bomb and run it and name that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And the best part is you'll always get it on curve. Like if it's 6 mana, that's like a weird combination of colors or something. You're always going to get it on turn 6 as long as you have 6.
As long as
6
you've drawn it.
Yeah.
6 mana.
Right?
And, well,
If
obviously,
it's
as
in
long
your
as you've drawn
hand
it.
and you got 6 mana, you'll be able to play it.
Yeah. So unexpected potential actually seems really, really sweet.
I mean, actually, here's the thing. If you're, say you are firmly in, I don't think there's anything in here with like a triple casting cost, but maybe
Like 3 different colors?
Yeah.
There's a couple of the legendaries. I think Marchesa is
3.
Grixis
Yeah.
colored.
I mean, say you have built yourself a Grixis deck. Do you
That
just
seems very unlikely.
Yeah, but like, do you just like name it as like insurance that you can cast this bomb?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, like worst case scenario, like pick it up, and then worst case, just name the most complex casting cost card you have, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have something that is 2 colors, name that. If you have something that has like that is only 1 color but has multiple, has like it's like 2 blue, just name that because maybe you're off double blue. Like worst case, it's going to make your most difficult spell easier to cast. But
Right.
best case, you get to splash Brago in a black-green deck.
Yeah, or Selvala or something just crazy like that. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, yeah. This is Nuts in Cube. Nuts in Cube.
Can you imagine running like Mortify in a like green-red deck?
Yeah.
Oh, no one would expect it.
No. You just be like, it's going to reveal unexpected potential naming Mortify. Oh, no.
That was unexpected.
Yeah. So, last conspiracy is World Knit. This is actually kind of based on, I don't actually know that it's inspired by that, but it's similar to one of our Wacky Draft Community Cup stipulations, which is as long as every card in your pool started the game in your library or command zone, lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So that's templated a little interestingly, but basically what it means is you have to play every card you draft, but you can cast every card you draft.
Oh,
Yeah.
but, okay. Don't take this third. That's stupid. But if you can if this is
So like third pack, you mean?
yeah, third pack. Like if this shows up in your third pack, just don't worry about
Oh,
it.
if this
If
is my first pack,
yeah,
This
I'm
is
taking
a pack
it.
one, pick one.
slamming it,
Because-
taking it.
Because then
Yeah.
you literally just go through and take the best cards in any color.
Irrespective of what, you just take the best cards, and
Oh,
you'll have some duds, but whatever.
And boy, do you ever fuck up the rest of the draft for other people. With signaling is going to be awful. Everybody else's deck will be bad, and you'll be awesome. It'll be great.
The there's some of the Draft Matters cards actually combo quite favorably with World Knit, and we'll talk about that when we
get to them.
when we go through them. But that's I mean the power of that card is pretty clear.
I find that card.
The downside, of course, is that you are running a
buttload of
a
cards.
45 card
No.
deck plus land.
Plus land.
So you're probably. Oh, geez. You're probably running like 70 card deck.
Like
And everybody else is
60,
running a 40 card deck.
like 65 card. No, not 65.
No.
That's only
Probably 70.
yeah, probably. So it'll be less consistent, but
But think of the
presumably
quality.
the overall power level will be strong enough to warrant it.
Yes. Always take the best card and you will be fine.
And you could play, so you could just play, I like that because you could just put all mountains in your deck.
Yeah. All right. So the
Don't tell anybody else you have it though.
draft. Yes, the draft matters. Well, they might notice when you just are like, "This is my deck."
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do have to actually start with it.
Yeah.
Oh, you not during the draft? You mean?
No.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah.
So the Draft Matters cards, they're all artifact constructs, and they all affect the draft in some interesting way. And this is really cool. Like a lot of these ways are things that like people have always joked about in draft. Like, wouldn't it be cool if this, or things that you'd never be able to do in an actual sort of sanctioned draft. But now we get to sort of have fun with it. And they tried to make them, broadly speaking, playable as artifact creatures, which
Yeah.
I want to actually just briefly give a yay or nay to as we go through them. So the first one is Aether Searcher, and it is a 6/4 for 7 colorless.
Which is
Okay.
That's fine.
It's okay.
It's fine. It's not amazing, but whatever. So
I'm not excited to run this, but what does he do?
reveal Aether Searcher as you draft it. Most often you need to reveal these guys either as you draft them or at some point during the draft, or else they don't do anything. So you reveal it as you draft it, meaning, hey guys, I'm drafting Aether Searcher. This is happening now. When it enters the battlefield, you may search. Oh, and so you reveal Aether Searcher, and then you reveal the card you draft immediately after Aether Searcher. So you draft this guy, say, I've drafted Aether Searcher, you pass that pack, you get your next pack, you draft that and go, and I drafted this after it.
Yeah.
When it enters the battlefield, you may search your hand or library for a card with a name noted as you drafted it, and you may cast it without paying its mana cost.
Yeah.
If you search your library, then you shuffle your library.
Seems pretty good.
So wherever that card is in your hand or in your library, you just get to play it for free. Now you got to get to 7 mana first.
And you don't necessarily know what you're going to get because that's coming in the next pack.
Yeah. But you can just, remember we talked about
Is it when it
off color whatever, right? This thing's rare.
is that when you cast it or when it enters?
When Aether Searcher enters. So,
So-
if it gets countered, you're SOL.
So, but if you have multiple copies of the named card, oh no, it's just the card after that fact, right?
Yeah.
But how are you supposed to know which copy it is?
No, it doesn't really matter because you can't do it again, right?
If you get a second Aether Searcher,
Yeah.
then you'd have to like note which Aether Searcher was which.
Which
somehow.
one? Yeah,
I guess that's a little weird. But so what that means is if you can get to a point where this guy's entering play, either by hard casting him or by cheating him in somehow,
Yeah.
you get to cast that other card for free regardless of its mana cost or
Yeah.
color or whatever. So that seems like it could be pretty powerful.
Yep.
I'm not super sold on a 7 mana 6/4.
Okay, but the thing is, you got to think about it. All right, so this is a rare, so you're probably going to get it fairly early, like in like the pack.
Yeah, I think it
So
comes
you
down
could get
to
a very powerful card.
hopefully that's the thing.
Yeah, I
it
mean, the
comes
problem
down
is-
to like
yeah.
if you draft this guy and then the next pack just has.
Sucks.
Dirt.
Yeah.
Then-
it's
Then
like,
you probably don't run
I'm
them at
probably
all.
not running the Aether Searcher because I don't want to run a 7 mana 6/4 just because I have a mediocre card that's in my deck.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
All right.
I
agent
think the best thing to pair that with is some sort of removal, by the way.
Agent of Acquisitions. This guy, I love this guy. It's fine. They finally did it. So, Agent of Acquisitions is a 2 mana 2/1. That's fine.
Sure.
It's
Yep.
a piker. It's fine. Draft Agent of Acquisitions face up. Instead of drafting a card from a booster pack, you may draft each card in that booster pack. If you do, turn Agent of Acquisitions face down, and you cannot draft cards for the rest of this draft round. A draft round meaning you
The pack.
you
You sit out the pack.
Yeah.
So if you open this guy and you take him, you can take the rest of the pack.
So you finally get to do that thing
Where it's just
there's
like-
you always say it during draft. It's like,
like-
oh, I want everything in this pack. There's like 4 good cards for me.
Yeah.
I've literally never said that though.
I
And I
it gets
feel-
said a
you've
lot.
been around people who have said it.
Oh, absolutely. I
There's
feel
always
this guy
someone
is
at the
actually
table.
a trap. I feel this is not as good as you think it is.
I
it could be pretty good.
could be pretty good.
It really depends on the pack, right?
I'm kind of with Kathleen. I think that people will realize that this might not actually be as good if it's later in the pack, maybe. But
there's,
you
like-
don't want to be like, I'll take all 15 of, well, not 15.
14.
We'll say it's a couple in. I'm going to take all 13 of the cards in this pack.
Yeah.
Because
because
there's
there's like 4 cards that are really good for me.
at best there's 4.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's 3.
Maybe there's 3.
And you're missing out on the rest of that pick. And by the way, you get to watch those packs go by. So you get to see like, I could have had that one, but
Yeah.
you don't. You get that pack of stuff and the
I mean,
and
we're-
the Agent of Acquisitions. Maybe
Yeah.
if you have WorldKnit and you're like, this is just a, when you open a pack and you're like, this is a great pack. There's so many really good high power cards in here.
Yeah.
Maybe if you have WorldKnit, you're just like, I'll
Fuck
just
it.
take the whole thing.
Yeah.
But
I mean, maybe like
No, I feel that
ideal situation for this card. You open it, you pass it, you get those, you let it come all the way around, it wheels, and there's like 2 or 3 cards left in the pack that are still okay,
that are
and you're
decent
like,
for you.
done.
Yeah.
I'll take them.
I feel that don't count on the magical dreamland scenario. I feel that is the best case scenario. I would not take this guy highly.
All right, next one.
next up is Canal Dredger. So this is
So flavorful.
This is pretty interesting. He is just dredging all the crap from the bottom of the canal. He's a 1/5 for 4. So he's a decent blocker. I'm not super excited about running a 1/5 for 4, but whatever.
That depends what kind of deck you're in.
Draft Canal Dredger face up. Each player passes the last card from each booster pack to a player who drafted a card named Canal Dredger. And he has put target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. Now that is a pretty powerful effect.
Yeah.
So
That's good if you're running that 35 card deck.
ignore the draft mechanic. A 1/5 for 4 that lets you put something from your graveyard on the bottom of your library.
Very good.
That I could see that in the right deck that you have, like search effects and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Now the draft thing is, so there's no basic land. So there's the
You're
last
always going to
pick
get spells.
is always going to be a card, but there's always like the 15th card in the pack, the worst card.
Yeah.
And you pass it to the guy beside you and you're like, here's what you get, last pick. Instead they all go to one person. They all
I
go
like
to
that.
just
I think that's kind of
one
hilarious.
person. So they get way more cards, but they're all Garbo.
Yeah.
I think they could be Garbo.
I think that's pretty sweet.
You
I
might
think that's
get-
pretty awesome.
I don't know.
So this is the WorldNet non-bow is the Canal Dredger.
Yeah, because you get so many more cards.
Yeah.
Don't take this.
And they're all the worst.
Yeah.
Don't take this if you take WorldNet.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is interesting.
But I feel that maybe you take him sort of mid just for his ability though.
Yeah, probably.
Right?
If you're in like a more
you don't need to run all
like,
that
if
shit
you're
he
in
gets you.
If you're in a grindy deck, yeah.
Yeah, I feel that he is actually ignore the draft matters. Take like if you have the kind of deck where you want recursion or you want to bring back your removal spells, or maybe you are running that 35 card deck conspiracy, so your deck is a little lighter and you want to give yourself that sort of long game flexibility. Look at him for his ability.
Yeah. Cogwork Grinder. Now this is the guy that combos with WorldNet. Draft Cogwork Grinder face up. Of course, they're both rares, so good luck.
Yeah.
As you draft a card, you may remove it from the draft face down. These cards are not in your card pool, is the reminder text. Cogwork Grinder enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of cards you removed from the draft with cards named Cogwork Grinder. And he
Right.
casts for 6 mana.
So basically, if you can get 6. Honestly, I think you take this highly anyhow because basically you're turning your shash into cash.
Now,
Right?
the trick is you don't get to decide later.
No.
How many?
It's no. Yeah, you remove those cards as you draft them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you need to be making that decision as you're going, and you might not really know until like later in the thing because you might want to be keeping yourself kind of open for pack 1. You still take this guy early, but you might want to be keeping yourself open earlier on, and then over the course of pack 2 and then in pack 3 you can be like ditch it.
Yeah, I
but
feel-
you can't make that decision during deck building. It has to be
No.
or like you can't partway through pack 2 be like, okay, I am in this color, so I'm just going to take all these and set them aside.
Yep.
No, that is wrong. But I feel that you can definitely because this is I feel that even if you only start doing that in pack 2, you will easily have at least 6 cards that you're like, I'm not gonna run this, right? So go for it.
You should be able to get a 6/6 for 7 or a 6/6 for 6. You're
Yes,
saying. Yeah.
you'll probably get an 8/8 for 6, I think.
Probably. What's up, Paul?
So does this guy work with the Canal Dredger?
That's what I was thinking too. Can you just take all those cards that you get past and be like, ugh?
Canal Dredger says you pass the last card from each booster pack,
Yeah, you're not-
You pass them to that player.
but then that player
Whereupon-
is drafting them.
I believe
right?
that
Yeah.
player is drafting them. Yes.
So you just take all.
So I
7 of
did
those
see
cards.
someone talk about how they had a combo going with Cogwork Grinder and Canal Dredger where everyone passed them their card and then they would just go like,
So if you get them
I don't want
both
this.
in the first pack, you end up with a 15-15.
pretty much.
For 6.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't have any kind of evasion or trample, but
But
He's-
15-15
He's
is
still a 15-15. which
Yeah.
is pretty-
15-15?
pretty
Or is
good.
it 5?
wouldn't he be? Well, he'd be more than that.
No, it'd be 21
because 7.
because you get
it'd be-
7 cards at the end of each draft pack,
Well, plus yours.
plus yours actually. So you're actually 24,
so we'll like.
assuming you don't want any of those.
Now the
Yeah.
fun combo with WorldNet, if you're lucky enough to get WorldNet and Cogwork Grinder, is as you're going through, if something isn't like even average, if something's below average, you can just get rid of it as you draft it. It makes your Cogwork Grinder bigger, and you don't have to run it as part of the requirements of WorldNet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
makes it really, really cool.
This
so
guy's
that's
great.
that's living the dream.
Honestly, take this guy. Like, this guy's very first pickable.
Cogwork Librarian is a 3/3 for 4 colorless. That's
Seems-
fine.
It's
Yep.
decent. Sometimes you want a gray ogre.
No, that's Hill Giant.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want a hill giant.
There we go. Gray Ogre's 2/2 for 3.
Oh, okay.
Draft Cogwork Librarian face up. As you draft a card, you may draft an additional card from that booster. If you do, put Cogwork Librarian into that pack.
This is very, very good.
So you're going, I'm going to take this card, and I'm going to swap this card for my librarian, and then you pass it. And then the next person over could then take the librarian and then do that themselves on a later pack.
Yeah.
And as came up in the conspiracy video, when Nate had 2 of these, each of the librarians gives you an additional pick out of that pack.
Right.
So if you put 2 librarians into a pack, you get to take a total of 3 cards out of it.
That's sweet.
Now, I only saw one of these, and I had to pass it because I got just something. Like I saw it, like, I think second pick, and there's something much better in there than this guy is really good, but obviously you're not going to take him over a huge bomb, but I would take this guy as highly as you can, because it is, like, basically you're probably trading your 3rd or 4th pick, probably. I don't see him going around much later than that, honestly, because he is so powerful, for maybe 2 good sort of, like, 5th and 6th picks, right? But you get them at the same time. But how often, like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, if only I could draft this whole thing. But how often have you opened a booster pack or just had something past you and you're like, oh, there's an amazing creature and an amazing removal spell in here? That happens all the time, where there's 2 cards that would just be great for your deck. So I think this guy is very, very good. Very
I would
strong.
actually probably I don't know if I'd pick it that highly. I'd probably try to get it partway through
I feel that
pack
other
1,
people pick it.
and then I would want to use it, like, upon opening pack 2 or pack 3.
Yeah, I think that's where you probably end up using it. But then your opponents can then, like, I feel that this guy will be taken quickly, so I wouldn't count on him coming to, like, 5th or 6th pick, or even on the wheel.
Cogwork Spy is next. It is a 2/1 flyer for 3.
So
that's playable.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely playable. Reveal it as you draft it. You may look at the next card drafted from this booster pack. So that's really interesting, because you can draft it and then you pass the pack, and you can then find out what card the person to your left is taking. So you'll know.
Or right.
Well, I'm just thinking if you do it in pack 1.
Yeah.
Find out what the person to your left is taking, so you'll know what you're more likely to be passed in pack 2.
Yep.
Or vice versa. If you do it in pack 2, then what?
And here you get into a little bit of mind games here. Does the person take the card that they actually want? So you can. So
I mean, that depends
so you
on.
see,
It's really
or
going to
do they
depend
try
on.
and fake you out?
It's going to depend on the pack, right? I'm never going to pass a card, even if it gives the player next to me information that's going to be really good for my deck.
Yeah.
If the pack is mediocre, then sure, maybe I'll try to screw them. But I mean,
I don't
see that really working.
Honestly, I don't actually know how valuable that information is.
No.
I think the card is interesting, but I'm certainly not going to change. If someone gets to spy on my pick, I'm certainly not changing how I pick.
No, God, no.
I feel that you have to have in the back of your mind that somebody might try to F with you just because they're annoyed that you got to see what they picked. I mean, that might not be good for them, but
If you're playing this format and you're getting annoyed that somebody gets to look at one of your cards, you should probably not be playing this format.
I know, but still, like, you always have to. Now, but it leaves behind. Is a 2/1 flyer for 3 relevant?
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
No.
It's not amazing.
It's
I think this card is fine, but
I think
wouldn't.
with colorless casting cost, like
Yeah.
a 2/1 flying artifact, I think that's actually pretty.
It's
pretty
okay.
good.
I found when I was playing it, it was not like, because I picked 2 of these actually. 'cause
Yeah,
I
but you
was
were up
like-
against a guy that had 2 favorable wins and a ton of giant flyers.
Yeah, but still, like, a 2/1 flyer is still not. Like, I wouldn't go out of my way to pick this card.
all right. What's
I would
next?
say if it comes up 5th or 6th, great, but it's not a high pick.
Next, Cogwork Tracker, 4/4 for 4. Sweet. 4/4 for 4.
Yep.
Absolutely. Reveal it as you draft it and note the player who passed it to you.
Okay.
Cogwork Tracker attacks each turn if able, so he's like a juggernaut.
Okay.
Cogwork Tracker attacks a player you noted for cards named Cogwork Tracker each turn if able.
So this is irrelevant if you are not in the pool. Like if you're
Yeah,
if that person is in the other 4-player game, it doesn't matter.
Or
Doesn't
if
matter.
you're already dead by the time
Yeah.
this guy comes
Still
out.
has to attack every turn.
Yes.
But if you are in the pool with the person who passed it to you when you took it, it has to attack them.
I don't like this card at all.
Or if you got one way and one the other way, and
Yeah.
they're both in your pool, you can attack either of them.
Yeah.
I feel
No.
this is not a good idea.
I don't like this card at all.
It's not a 4/4 for 4 is not
It's-
enough upside
it's
for
silly.
attacks each turn if
I think it's neat.
Yeah.
But
All
all right. Deal Broker is a 2/3 for 3. I like 2/3 for 3s in draft.
Yeah,
like
I
this
think
guy.
they're great.
Draft Deal Broker face up.
Is he what rarity is this guy?
This one's rare.
Yeah.
Immediately after the draft, so this is during deck building. Well, no, this is right after the draft. You may reveal a card in your pool. Each other player may offer you one card in their pool in exchange. You may accept only one offer.
Yeah.
This is also a looter. Tap, draw a card, and discard a card. So a 2/3 for 3 that loots is actually sweet, and
Yep.
I will absolutely play that card.
Yeah, I'd say that card is already like sort of a C plus on the Marshall
Yeah.
limited resources scale.
I think it's probably
I
higher
think it's
than
probably
that.
higher than that,
yeah.
actually. A 2/3 for 3 that loots. Like a looter
colorless
that,
looter for
typically
yeah,
looters
no.
can't block very well.
That's
no,
true. All right,
this card
so
is
like he's a
pretty
B.
good.
Yeah. Immediately after the draft, what
You can trade.
situation are you going to be in that you have a card on offer that someone wants,
And they have something.
and
that,
they have and they want that card, but have a card that they don't want that does get in your deck?
I mean, you.
It seems very unlikely.
It seems unlikely. Maybe you first pick a super bomby rare, and the colors just don't work out, and you have no way of playing it, and you have this amazingly powerful card. But now you have to decide whether or not do you want to give this card to your
Do you
opponent?
have to
do
accept
you?
any of the offers?
No.
No, you may
You
accept
may,
only
but
one
only
offer.
one. Here's a question: Do
Can you just do it just to find out what other people are playing?
No. Well, I mean,
You
technically,
Yeah,
you
'cause
can
they get to make
they have
offers.
to make offers. Do you do this? So you do this before you know who you're playing, correct? Or
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Because
So
immediately after the draft.
immediately after the draft. So I'm still taking this card all the time because it's
Yeah.
fun and it could lead to some fun trades and it's great in the game.
It's so I don't know if you're allowed. I don't know what. Okay, so conspiracies are not like a conspiracy draft is not sanctioned.
No.
So I don't know what sort of rules there are surrounding collusion. Like, it seems very sort of open and free and politicky, and there's lots of weird stuff with the draft. But I don't actually think you can be like, "Hey, I just passed you this, and I want it, and take it, and I'll give you this afterwards." I don't think you can.
No,
do
I don't
that.
think you can. Well, I mean,
Maybe?
theoretically you can because there's no. I mean, you're basically playing conspiracy with house rules, right?
Basically, yeah.
If your play group is okay with that, then sure. But
I feel that my play group would not be.
it seems kind of boring though. Like I don't want to do that. Like I want to after the draft be like, all right,
I got one of the.
I
got
got
this. Who wants?
I got a Magister of Worth. I'm not in white black anymore. Who wants it? What do you got? Sort of thing.
And if they have something you want, then you can take it. And if not, then you can be
Yeah.
like, well, I guess no one gets it.
I mean, even like I could see like play groups maybe spicing up this card a little bit, saying, you know, I have this mythic that I'm not playing, and I will trade it away for 3 commons or 2 uncommons or like whatever, like maybe like 4 commons.
Because the card doesn't say that offer has to be one card, does it?
I think
No,
it
it
does.
does. Yeah, it does say it has to be 1 card. So what I'm saying is, if your play group is like, let's spice this up, and like 4 commons for a mythic, 3 uncommons for a mythic, 2 rares for a mythic, or mythic straight across, sort of thing. Like that could be really fun. that could make it really interesting.
You got to ask everyone in the draft first.
Oh yeah.
But
you
I
gotta
like
make
that.
sure.
I like
but
that
if you have a
idea.
regular play group, this is what I really like about Conspiracy is that if you're able to play it a decent amount with the same group of people, I think there's a lot of room for it to sort of evolve.
Yeah.
And do fun things like that WotC didn't necessarily put into the game, but there's nothing stopping you from putting it into the game. So
Yeah.
So that card is good. Take it.
I'm taking that card.
All right. Next, Lore Seeker. Oh, my favorite. So it is a 2/2 for 2. It's a bear. I'll run it.
Yep.
Bears.
No
okay,
problem.
That is the very definition of an average decent card.
Yeah. Reveal Lore Seeker as you draft it.
Okay.
After you draft Lore Seeker, you may add a
Oh,
booster
this is a
pack,
booster pack, yeah.
to the draft.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean-
we're ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Worst case scenario, you're just adding another pack of Conspiracy.
Yeah, but
But
you hope that you're not.
you're
And the thing is
hoping.
that like you just want this card to show up in one of the packs that got opened. So
Yeah.
these shenanigans can happen. Obviously, you want it to be you so you can crack that pack of Future Sight first and pull a Tarmogoyf for something crazy, which I've heard stories of.
A friend of ours tweeted she built sort of like a white weenie-ish kind of deck in Conspiracy, and she was like, I'm hoping this guy gets there, and tweeted a picture of the Knight of the Hokey Pokey.
Oh God,
Because they got Lore
'Cause they
Seeker
got-
and opened a pack
pack of
of Unglued.
that's
See
insane.
that is the kind of wackiness. Now, when we did it, they gave us options. I was actually wanting to go for Zendikar because I thought it had the best synergy with the cards in Conspiracy.
Yeah, but I feel like Nate's argument of just doing weird stuff
Oh,
and
yeah,
going
you
for
wanted
future
to-
sight was probably
that was
Yeah,
absolutely
but
the
I
right
feel-
call.
Oh, absolutely, it was the right call. But I feel from a I want the best deck possible call.
Oh, you spike.
I know.
So yeah, this like a 2/2 for 2 is playable. That doesn't matter. This is just awesome.
You're drafting this
And-
Always
for the
take
credit.
this first.
And you don't forget that you get to be first pick out of the pack you add.
Yeah.
So you get that first pick as well, and then the person beside you gets picks. You gets 2 second picks, which is probably pretty sweet for
It's
them.
pretty
actually.
good for anybody, unless you're like Nate or like Dave and me, like right beside the person.
Getting like 7th and 8th pick
Yeah.
on the way around.
Womp
The
womp. That's sad face time.
for those people who aren't used to drafting in person, there was some people were talking to us on our stream, being like, "I don't actually understand how that works," and it just means there's 9
Boosters going around.
boosters going around, because not everyone has to have one of the 8 boosters in their hands at given points. They can there can be boosters waiting in between people.
Yeah.
So it just means that there's 9 packs going around.
Yeah.
So,
It's
lurking
confusing. Use zone drafting.
Lurking Automaton. This guy's really interesting. Didn't really cook off in the video, but super interesting. He is a 0/0 for 5. Bleh. Reveal
He
Lurking.
just dies.
Yeah, reveal Lurking Automaton as you drafted, and note how many cards you have drafted this round, including Lurking Automaton.
So if you take it 6th,
then that's 6.
so 6.
So he's
Okay.
a 6/6 for 5,
well,
which is
well, yeah, because Lurking Automaton
Yeah.
enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters, where X is the highest number you noted for cards named Lurking Automaton.
So if you take him 6th in pack 1, but 8th in pack 2,
They're both
8/8s
8/8 for 5.
for 5s.
So-
I mean, he's pretty interesting.
It doesn't even have to be pack 2. If you take a Lurking Automaton first, he's a 1/1 for 5. If you then take one later that pack, if you take a different one 7th.
7th, then they're both 7/7s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the problem with Lurking Automaton is he's rare, so he's not going to show up that often.
He is common.
Oh, he's common.
Yeah, he's common.
Yep.
Oh, I thought he was a rare.
No, Lore Seeker's rare.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
he would be terrible if he was
He
rare.
would be god awful if he was.
So I was confused. But all right,
You had
so,
a whole thing you were going to say, no?
and now it's gone.
now
I
it's
should check.
irrelevant.
I should look at
No,
these things. But yeah,
he's super
There
cool.
is going to be that sort of like where's the sweet spot? Do you guys think to take him? Where you want to take him? Because I feel that if you see him 6th, do you seriously consider taking him if nothing's better in the pack?
I am not going to hedge my bets on him. The earliest I would want to take a Lurking Automaton is if I'm going to get a 4/4.
Yeah.
Oh no, I wouldn't even take him if he was a 4/4. There's probably something better in the pack, 4th pick.
Yeah, but I mean, a 4/4 that you can cast for just 5 colorless is probably fine.
And I mean that's really important to remember about all of these guys is that they go in any deck.
yeah,
Yes.
Right.
They're easy to cast.
Easy to cast. So a 4/4 for 5 is pretty good.
I feel if I see him 6th, I take him. I do not pass him unless there's something really good for me in the deck or in the pack.
This is interesting. The next Draft Matters card is the only one that's not an artifact creature. In fact, it is a land. This is Paliano, the High City.
I have no idea what this does.
This is really weird. It actually does nothing outside of draft.
This
Okay.
is a rare too.
Yeah. So reveal Paliano, the High City, as you drafted.
Okay.
So say that the 3 of us are sitting beside each other in a draft.
Yep.
I've just taken Paliano.
Okay.
The player to your right chooses a color. You don't know what I'm playing, but you choose a color.
Black.
Then I choose a color, and then you choose a color, James, on my left. Paliano enters untapped and taps to add 1 mana to your mana pool of any color chosen as you drafted it, or as you drafted cards named Paliano the High City. So neither of you know what colors I'm in, but you get to pick in a complete vacuum. Then I get to pick presumably a color I'm actually in, and then you get to pick a third different color.
See, this is where those Cogwork spies suddenly become very useful. Because if I've seen you take a white
guess.
card, I'm going to be like, I'm not naming white.
I like this card.
I think it's
this
super
card
cool.
is super neat.
It does literal nothing outside of draft because
but
if you put this in a commander deck, it has no colors to tap
I
for.
think so. It
Yeah.
taps for colorless.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't tap for anything.
Doesn't tap for anything.
Oh.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually tap for colorless on its own.
Yeah.
It does actual nothing if you haven't drafted it.
Wow, it's literally a plank.
Yeah. But in a draft, in a cube, or certainly in a drafted conspiracy, I think that's really cool because there's no fixing. So if you get this, it's like, all right, what you name a color, I'll name a color, you name a color, and you're like, all right, I now have a land that has access to these 2 other colors, so maybe I can splash something off that.
Yeah.
Why
So
why
how?
not?
So how? Because it's one of the only fixing things, how highly do you pick this?
I'd probably pick it pretty high just to see what it's like.
Yep, absolutely.
I might pick this up like 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, that's fair.
If it gets there.
Yeah.
I could see it getting there.
And very few Draft Matters cards left. They all have a watermark on them, by the way. They have a watermark of a wax seal.
Yep.
Like that you would seal a letter with, not like a wax marine mammal. So there's just one left, which was very entertaining in the video. This is the Whisper Gear Sneak.
All right.
It is a 1/1 for 1. Ugh.
What rarity is this?
It's common. So basically never running this because the 1/1 colorless for 1 is
it's
just
terrible.
it's not really worth the card because it has no other abilities. But I'm probably going to draft it because draft Whisper Gear Sneak face up. During the draft, you may turn Whisper Gear Sneak face down. If you do, look at any unopened booster
that's
pack
right.
in the draft or any other booster pack not being looked at by another player.
Okay, so the correct way to play this is to open your next booster.
Well, there's 3 different use cases here. One is you look at a booster that you have coming up so that you know what you're going to be opening so that you can sort of craft around it and be like, I know what my pack 2 rare is going to be. So I definitely want to take that, so I'm going to lean towards that direction in pack 1. The second is looking at another booster that is currently on the table that just no one's looking at right now. And you're allowed to be like if someone's passing it to someone else, you can be like, wait, before you see that,
Yeah.
I want
wanna look at
to
it.
just take a look at, and so you can see what's in there now from when you passed it, see what's been taken. There's another sort of get information on other people. That's, I guess, cool, maybe a little less interesting. I think the first use case, like setting up your own future boosters, is probably more valuable.
That's definitely the spike play.
The third one is the complete troll play that we saw Kenji do on Marshall, which is you just open someone else's unopened booster and get to see what they have coming.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even necessarily the troll play.
If you do it to someone beside you, that could actually be really useful.
Exactly. That's what you do. So there's actually 4.
Yeah.
Right? There's the one that's going to help you the most. The one where you pick up an open booster, which seems kind of...
Which is information.
It's information, but
not amazing.
I'm almost never going to do it.
No.
There's the one where I'm going to open up your booster if you're sitting next to me, or whoever's sitting to my left.
Depending on what pack you're
Depending on what pack I'm in. Or there's a troll move where you're just like, hey, Paul, across the table 4 picks away from me, I'm going to open your second booster because screw you.
in. Just for fun.
That I probably don't ever actually do, though, because it's especially if Paul is 4 picks away, it's probably not your best bet. Your best bet is going to be, drafting this, do you draft this, first? No. And then you know what the whole rest of your opening pack looks like and what your
Maybe
second
if your
pack
rare is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not first.
I feel that.
So, corner case rules point. This is because we did have the rules manager on hand when we were shooting the video. Marshall had 2 sealed boosters when Kenji opened one. There's no sort of set numbering for there's no sort of that is your second booster, that is your third booster.
Sure.
It's just 2 unopened boosters. So Kenji opened it and looked at it and smelled it and everything and then handed it back, and then Marshall got to choose which one he opened second and which one he opened third because they're all conspiracy, so there's no set order to the draft. So if that matters to you at all,
if somebody opens your booster,
so that
for the
person
walls,
gets the
they
choice.
can't. Well,
The person who's if I want to open,
if you want to look at Paul's booster, you don't get to say let me see the one you're opening second. It's just let me see one of your
the
unopened
openings?
ones.
Interesting.
And they then get to then Paul would then get to choose if that was his second or his third booster when the time came to open it.
Marshall made it his third booster in case somebody else tried to open his next booster.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel that card has limited utility unless you're the kind of person who can really keep track of what cards are going around the table and stuff like that, to be honest with you. If you're a serious drafter and you can be like, all right, this is what was in this pack and you'll remember that. I personally can't. So I don't it's good to set yourself up, but it's not something I'm going to take highly. Because the creature that gets left behind is not even that great, right?
Mm-hmm.
If somebody drafts a Lore Seeker, can you use this to snag the pack before they get to look at it?
You can certainly do it after they have
taken their first
picked
pick
between them and the person who would get to pick from it second.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't think you can because you're essentially.
I don't know.
That's almost like you're responding to
There's
something
no
in a
stack.
draft.
Be
and
like,
that
I'm
does
going to
not
add
work.
this pack of Future Side.
Oh wait, yeah.
It's like, are we
I
getting to
think
the
you probably could.
I feel like that's.
I think you probably could.
I feel like again that's one of those you leave it up to your playgroup rules.
Are we getting to the point where there's now a stack in the draft?
In the draft, yeah. With some of these cards, there almost has to be. So, all right.
So that's our
Part
first.
one.
Our first take a look at. Yeah, that's our first look at conspiracy. Next time we'll look at the cards with the conspiracy mechanics, the will of the council, and parley apparently, and dethrone, and and we're gonna do a draft of conspiracy. We're gonna live stream a draft on a Sunday coming up. It's currently scheduled for
It's currently scheduled for the 22nd.
June 22nd.
If it doesn't happen on the 22nd, it will be the weekend following.
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
We'll let you know.
Yep.
But thank you guys for listening. We're really excited to get cracking some conspiracy, and
Yeah.
hopefully
Super fun.
you have you're looking forward as well. People have been texting us, or not texting, but
Tweeting.
sending us
and-
tweets, being like,
yeah.
"Look at this crazy thing I did," and it sounds like it's
It's,
just
it's
been a
definitely a
blast.
wacky format.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys for listening.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.